Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. Andrew Tate is having a crash out. And he is surrounded by hedonism. I think that he has slept with probably well over 500 women. He glorifies hedonism. He has a soft spot for women who create adult content. And I've covered this consistently. And I've archived many of his posts. And at this point, you could also call me just a biographer at this point of Andrew Tate. Because I'm hoping that he can see the beauty of Islam and that he can start to obey the rules. But, you know, it seems that he's not really using his wealth to gain knowledge. Because if he was, it would show up more in his rhetoric. He writes here, once you're rich and famous, and can have any girl on the planet, you realize they're all scum and you don't want a single one. I don't know what happened, but this sounds a bit like he was betrayed by somebody. But one should also remember, he has said, hasn't proven, that he has more than 2 baby mamas. Now, he hasn't married them Islamically. None of them are Muslim from our knowledge. None of them wear hijab from our knowledge. The women he has posted pictures with were 2 white ladies. And I've seen him flip-flop on who he calls his wife. You know, he hasn't officially married them, but he calls them like his wives, his women. It's kind of like a little difficult to pin down what exactly they are to him. But he has his harem, and he says he has Chinese kids, black children, white children, that he has a multi-racial group, like his little family, you know? Like, shouldn't call it little, actually. I have seen him contradict himself. So who knows the truth? Only Allah knows the truth, and those involved. But clearly, he does like to hang out with very lewd gold digger women. He flashes the Dubai lifestyle, cars, champagne, cigars, private jets, and he doesn't have a very religious aura. Doesn't have a Islamic mindset. He gives way more attention to lewd women like Bonnie Blue, Lena the Plug. He talks to them, giggles with them, blushes with them. I'm not joking. If you're familiar with his content, you'll see his cheeks turn red and he's laughing and grinning from ear to ear. I've never seen him praise one hijabi, niqabi, burqa woman, or female scholar. Never seen him say anything positive about Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, any of the wives of the Prophet, not even, nothing, just nothing at all. So, you are going to attract a certain type of woman. And, well, if money is what you use as bait, you're going to get the women who love money. And when it's all about money, it's not personal, it's business. His pessimism, cynicism, nihilism is directly stemmed to the lifestyle he leads of lust, sin, and disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he was around righteous women, I doubt he would feel this way. If he could qualify as a husband to a righteous woman, I doubt he would feel this way. But alas, his behavior, how he earns his money, he promotes gambling, adult content, he's vulgar, he flip-flops on his principles constantly, he taught men how to convince girls to do cam work, made millions from that, he self-admitted that. I've watched enough, and, well, I shouldn't say I've watched enough. I've watched a lot of Andrew Tate documentaries, you know, so that way I give him a fair shake. And he admits himself what kind of lifestyle he leads. And even when after he converted, he was on his yacht. I'm not sure if it was actually his. They didn't show proof of that. But essentially him on a yacht with chicks in bikinis, women massaging him, you know. So you're going to get the fast girls with the fast life. You're not going to... I don't know a good sheikh or a good Muslim man who would take his precious daughter and be like, you should marry someone like Andrew Tate. Because money doesn't equal class. We're not going to take our money with us on Judgment Day. We'll be held accountable for how we spent it, how we earned it. And how Tate spends it is haram, and how he earns it is haram, even though he's given some charity. But what he promotes to young men is a mixed bag, right? And there's a lot of haram things mixed in there. So, one could argue maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has denied him a good woman because he's not a good man. And a good man gets a good woman, and a bad man gets a bad woman. Although, you know, Prophet Lot, may Allah be pleased with him, he was tested with his wife. So, and from what we know, Isa, Jesus, didn't have a wife. So not every prophet got a wife or a good wife, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had good wives. So I agree there's a mixed bag, right? Where we can learn many lessons here. But Tate has strayed quite far from Islam, and free mixing is haram. But if he was able to shape up, fix his life, start applying the rules of Islam, and really reform, maybe, just maybe, he could attract a good woman. But remember, he admitted to having relations with Lauren Southern. She has herpes, okay? This is public knowledge. She herself said it. And Lauren Southern accused him of choking her out and committing SA, R-wording. Also, there's a lot of evidence and, you know, pretty believable evidence that Michaela Peterson also slept with Tate. The fact of the matter is, he slept with very well-known women. He also said he would sleep with Bonnie Blue for $5 million. He said this himself. And you can say he was being facetious, but he was giggling. He called her based. He called her intelligent for not giving it away for free. When you praise women that are so, I mean, a walking biohazard is what she is. Matan Evan grilled Bonnie Blue. Tate was gushing, blushing, giggling, being very friendly with a human being who is living a lifestyle that is very haram and unhealthy and dangerous. She's playing Russian roulette with her health. These men don't even get tested. Sometimes she claims they do, but she is ruining herself and adding a lot of degradation to the world. So when Tate praises her, we can say to ourselves, a good father is going to see that kind of an interview and say, you know what? Ain't no way you're coming near my daughter. You got your money, but you got no class. Get the hell out of here. Because even if a brother is poor, but he's got taqwa, he'll make a better husband than a guy with money who has no taqwa. Right? Remember, there's lots of hadiths about how this world is temporary. We're travelers. We're the wayfarers. The glitz and glamour of this world, as we're told in the Quran, is very fleeting, essentially. And look throughout the earth and see what was of those that came before. Civilizations that have collapsed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took down Fir'aun through Moses and whatnot. Prophet Joseph, may Allah be pleased with him, was able to not fall victim or get persuaded by the nasty woman who tried to seduce him. Tate mingles with the seducers. He promotes them. He has podcasts with them. He doesn't put them in their place. So again, we have to understand who he is, where he comes from, what he promotes, and when you do that, you realize, you know what? It makes sense that you would look around at the bad women and think, hey, these women are no good, they're scum. But he has to understand how this is a problem for him, not for all men. Also, he says he could get any girl on the planet, but if he really could get any woman on the planet, then he wouldn't be so nihilistic. Because clearly, there are women who are definitely not scum. When he says, generalizations like all scum, it means he's calling his own mom scum, his own daughters. That his daughters will grow up to be scum. That the mothers of his children are scum. And imagine you're one of his baby mamas, because he hasn't married them, so we can call them the derogatory term baby mamas. He hasn't married them Islamically from our knowledge. He's never said that any of them were Muslim. He's never said any of them were hijabis, niqabis, wearing burqas, or anything like that. From what we know, from what he has disclosed, they're all not believers. So imagine his baby mamas, the accurate term we're going to use for them, because they're not married via the government or through a religious ceremony, so therefore they're just baby mamas. You're reading this and you're like, wow, he basically thinks I'm scum. That's pretty dark. And think about how those women, they went through the pains of contractions, the 30 days of bleeding to give him a baby, stayed up. I don't know if they breastfed or formula fed, or they used a nanny. We don't know that. But I'm pretty sure they had some participation in the newborn phase, naturally. Unless they're just cold-hearted harpies who gave away their baby to a nanny 24 hours a day. They are reading this like, wow, you sacrificed your body, risked your life, because, there's quite a lot of women throughout history who have died because of complications of childbirth. You risk your life for this man, and he calls you scum. And maybe you could argue that he's saying, hey, money doesn't equal a good woman. But this is true, right? But his character is what is the problem. Many have also, they think that he dabbles in a bit of bisexuality. I remember on BitChute, before it got banned on the App Store, Owen Benjamin shared a clip where he said, if a woman looks very like masculine, she's not very beautiful, and you have intimacy with her, you're gay. But you're not gay if you do stuff with a man who's, a passing crossdresser. So Tate admitted that if the male has had enough plastic surgery and you decide to do sodomy with them, astaghfirullah, that you're not gay. And common sense would argue that, well, you're doing still an act with a biological male. Sure, we can get into liberal, progressive semantics on sexuality and all that, but there's a reason why people accuse Tate of dabbling in many entrees. We won't be vulgar, even though the idea itself is vulgar. And recall, there are hadiths that say sodomy with women is haram and that a man will be cursed. I've read them myself. I've seen it in the texts, in the hadiths, so look it up. And we know that male-on-male relations are haram, and a male cannot approach a woman's back end, we'll say, his wife, right? He can't do that with her. Any of his wives. So the action that Tate promotes is haram in both instances. And we know the more haram you do, the farther you get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you're farther away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to get around some pretty wicked individuals. So I don't doubt that he's surrounded by some very occultic, witchy women. He could change that. How? No free mixing. Okay? No free mixing. And he could fix it with getting pious wives. He's got the wealth. He can pay a wonderful sheikh to enlighten him. Faris Hamadi seems to really like him. I'm not saying Faris Hamadi is a good scholar or something, or a good student of knowledge or whatever. I'm just saying they seem close. And he could totally pay. He has the funds, right? He's got all these fancy cars. A big old house or whatever, compound. He's got the capital to pay a good sheikh for his time. And generously, that is. So, he could put that money to good use, reform his life, divest himself of his haram income, and denounce his past podcasts with bad women. Purge bad women from his ranks. No more entourages of groupie escorts and whatnot. And don't get those weird massages and then do strange videos and all the weird, creepy stuff he does. And reform and then make persistent du'as to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe he'll be granted a good woman. But does a good woman deserve someone like Tate simply because he has cash? He'd be quite a burden. He comes with substantial baggage, social baggage. And any woman who would marry someone like him, I would argue, there's going to be a lot of stigma attached to that. And the fact that he has had relations and risked his health by having relations with Lauren Southern, who has herpes, it's like, wow, you know. And how fast he engages in relations with these women. It's really strange. So he has helped to make harlots, to make lewd hoochie mamas, and then complains that there are no good women. I always found this quite strange. Like, how can somebody complain about bad women, but then have made money from creating those bad women? And he told Bonnie Blue in the interview that he did, I don't want to see you become a born-again Christian. Don't change. Keep making the money. He encouraged her to continue in the sin. He wasn't being facetious. He wasn't joking. See, someone can tell the truth even if they're chuckling. Some people think just because you chuckle that you are not being serious. That's not true. That's not true at all. So, how can a man complain about bad women while he himself promotes bad women, created bad women, and taught men through his pimp and hose degree how to get good girls who have never done cam work to do cam work? That's strange. Isn't that strange? Quite peculiar. He creates the scum, the disease, and then complains that it's spreading. It's weird. Did he think that the evil he put into the world would not ever touch him? Did he think he could tell women to do the most degenerate things on camera for cash, and then he wouldn't end up with women around him who did that kind of lifestyle? Very strange. Being a leader is a heavy responsibility. It's quite a burden. He has proven he's not up for that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide him and save him. He has the most wonderful opportunity to gain all the Islamic knowledge with the wealth he has. He just has to let go of Shaitan's tail, we could argue. There's an expression of that. He has the capital to travel across the world and go full monk mode with a great sheikh, with the highest ranking ulama, greatest tajweed teachers there is that money can buy, and go far. But he won't do it. He won't step over the threshold. He has so many golden chains that are linking him to depravity. And then it's showing him the error of his ways, and yet he refuses to look into the black mirror. He doesn't want to see the sewage that he has spread. It's now coming back to him. He threw sand into the wind, and the wind blew the sand back in his face. And then he yells at the sand and the wind, but not his own hand. What his hand threw forward came back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching him a lesson. If he's getting betrayed by these bad women, he must realize that women who do not fear Allah are bad women and should be avoided. This is a sign that he needs to change. He needs to turn back. He has to get away from those who are leading him farther and farther from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path. He's got to steer that ship around. He talks about how he's so smart. He's this genius. Okay. Turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be wise. You've been given the gift of Islam. You were given the gift to be guided. If you're surrounded by wicked women, there's something to you, and you're mixing in the wrong rooms. You're around the wrong people. Your A team is a Z team. They're bottom barrel. And money doesn't buy class, it doesn't buy virtue. Has to come from within. He's got to let go of the materialism, I'd argue, in order to really see more clearly. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, and join the blog.